Hey everybody, well, time for another Star Trek review, so yep, time to look at Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Now, I know what you're thinking, I don't have a copy of Star Trek 3 available to me, blah blah blah, etc etc. But guess what? I don't care, I'm just doing these reviews, and whether or not I have a copy of the movie doesn't really matter to me, so there you go. So anywho, basic plot of Star Trek 3. Well, sorry about that. Okay, so basic plot of Star Trek 3 is that the Enterprise returns home to space dock, but bleh. So the Enterprise returns home to space dock, and unfortunately, their request to go back to Genesis has been denied because of the fact that, well, the Enterprise is going to get decommissioned. And while that's going on, the villain of the movie, Krug, played by Christopher Lloyd, is going off to Genesis to find the secrets of it because he believes that the Federation could use the Genesis planet to pretty much annihilate the Klingons while peace talks between the Federation and the Klingons are going on. So while that's going on, David Marcus and Savick, who was not played by Kirstie Alley in this movie, are studying the Genesis planet and have discovered that because of the Genesis Matrix, Spock has been brought back to life. Yay! But unfortunately, because of the revelation that David used protomatter in the Genesis Matrix, well, I take that Spock was brought back to life by the Genesis wave. But anywho, David Marcus put protomatter in the Genesis Matrix, which unfortunately means that the planet is aging as surges, and so is Spock. Whoopsies! So anywho, and it also turns out that Spock transferred his cadre into McCoy, so now Kirk has to bring both Bones and Spock to Vulcan, so that way Spock can get his cadre back and McCoy can stop babbling, and McCoy can stop saying things like, for one to order poison in a bar is not logical, and stuff like that. So anywho, Kirk then steals the Enterprise, but unfortunately they get chased by the new ship, the Excelsior, which is supposed to have transwarp drive, but thanks to a little ingenuity by Scotty, he basically disabled the Excelsior's transwarp drive, so now the Enterprise is free to go to the Genesis planet. Unfortunately, they get attacked by Krug's Klingon bird of prey, and let me tell you, the introduction of bird of prey in this movie is just awesome. Totally awesome. So anywho, the Enterprise and the bird of prey get into a fight, but unfortunately both ships are at a stalemate. But of course, Krug's men did capture Spock, Savick, and David. So ultimately, Krug decides that he's going to order one of his men to kill the prisoners, so that way Kirk will surrender. And, well, we get a really horrible scene where Kirk's own son died. I mean, seriously, we get introduced this character in the Wrath of Khan, and then he dies in this movie. Yeesh, that sucks. So, anywho, Kirk finally decides to surrender, but of course he pulls the old self-destruct maneuver on the Klingons. And so when Kirk and company beam down, they pretty much disable pretty much take care of the Klingons that are already on the planet. And so Kirk makes a deal with Krug. Krug will beam everyone up, and in order for Kirk to give Krug the secret of Genesis. But unfortunately, Krug decides to, up the ante a little bit by beaming almost everyone except himself, Kirk, and Spock onto the ship, which ultimately leads to Kirk fighting Krug, and of course Kirk wins, obviously. And so the Enterprise crew then takes the bird of prey to Vulcan, and of course we get the scene where Spock's cadre is finally put back in. Yeah, where Spock's cadre is finally put back in himself, hallelujah. And ultimately everything works out for the best, and of course, after that, we're told that the adventure continues. So, yeah. So that's basically the overall plot of Star Trek 3. And let me tell ya, I think this movie's actually not all that bad. I mean, seriously, out of all the odd number ones, this one actually isn't really all that bad. I mean, yeah, some people think it's the weakling in the unofficial Star Trek trilogy, but to be honest, I think it's actually pretty damn good, all things considered. I mean, come on. We got the introduction of the Klingon bird of prey. You see the Klingons finally cementing into their more modern makeup change that, of course, then we saw in the other films, and, of course, TNG onwards. But other than that, this movie just flat out rocks. It was the first Star Trek film to be directed by Leonard Nimoy, and of course, since we're unsure as to whether or not Spock would be back in the movie, we don't see Leonard Nimoy's name in the acting credits, but only lists Nimoy as the director. So it's kind of a little nice twist they put on the credits there, and I like that. I thought that was great. The music was done once again by James Horner, who did the score for the previous film, The Wrath of Khan. Of course, James Horner has done other films, like Titanic, Braveheart, Aliens, Avatar, lots of other cool stuff. So, with that in mind, time for the film factoids. Okay. And, wait a minute here. Hold on a minute here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so, first film factoid is, the villains of the film were originally intended to be Romulans, but upper studio management wanted Klingons to be used since they were better-known enemies. By the time the decision was made, the Romulan ship was already built, and they did not want the expense of replacing it. However, since the TV show had already established that the Klingons and Romulans had shared technologies and ships in the past for exactly the same real-world cost-cutting reasons, the idea of Klingons using a Romulan-style vessel wasn't a problem. Although not mentioned on screen, the novelization established that Saavik was half Vulcan and half Romulan. A scene cut from the previous film, The Wrath of Khan, also established this, but cannot be considered canon. Leonard Nimoy seemed to have directed Robin Curtis, who played Saavik in Star Trek 3, to portray Saavik as a full Vulcan. Leonard Nimoy does the turbo lift voice in the scene where Sky says, "Up ya shaft," while exiting Starship Excelsior. The end credits lists the voice under the alias Frank Force. That's funny. Okay. Production was endangered by the Great Fire at Paramount. William Shatner helped fight the fire and rescue a crew member before firefighter reinforcements arrived. Shatner said that his motivation for doing so was purely to save a day on the shooting schedule, as he had to make a deadline to be available for shooting on a new season of T.J. Hooker. Okay, and the last one we got here. When the Enterprise enters space dock at the beginning of the movie, just before Uhura comments on the Excelsior's appearance, would you look at that? Another docked ship can be seen in shadow at the upper left corner of the screen. This ship was one of the alternative models that was considered for use as Excelsior. This alternate model also made several appearances in Star Trek The Next Generation, used as a wrecked ship or piece of space junk. Very, very interesting, huh? Well, anyway, guys, that's my review of Star Trek 3. I'll be back in a couple episodes to review Star Trek 4. So anywho, until then, love and prosper, peace out, bye.